honorable guests, FOMAA Executive Committee, performers, audience, and coordinators. എല്ലാവർക്കും എൻ്റെ വിനീതമായ നമസ്കാരം. Today is the 14th of November, and we all know every year on 14th of November, we celebrate Children's Day in India. So let me begin by wishing all of you a very happy Children's Day. This year, we are also celebrating Diwali around the same time, the Festival of Lights, one of the most important Indian festivals celebrated by Indians around the world. I would like to wish one and all a very, very happy Diwali too. Children are the future. Children's Day is celebrated to increase awareness of rights, care, and education of children. And all of this starts at home with parenting. Today, FOMAA Women's Forum has had the pleasure actually to organize this event called Parenting, Positive, Connected, Successful. Our speaker today will be focusing on the topic, parenting in the midst of pandemic. I would like to take this opportunity along with Joby Valikalam and Shiny Abubakar to welcome all of you present here today. Our keynote speaker, Reena Nen. She's a Malayali who grew up in Tampa, Florida, and graduated from George Washington University. She is a television journalist who has worked at as a White House correspondent, foreign reporter, and news anchor for CBS, Fox, and ABC News. Reena began her reporting career in Baghdad in 2005 after her hotel was car-bombed by militants and has ever since reported around the world. She recently started her own media company, Good Trouble Productions, which aims to educate, motivate, and inspire in the midst of a global pandemic when people needed more than just news. She also launched a parenting podcast, Ask Lisa, The Psychology of Parenting. Now it is actually ranked the top 5 parenting podcasts on Apple. She also launched a show on YouTube called The Rebound with Reena Nen, stories of how people made it out of their darkest moments. A warm welcome to you, Reena. Our next guest is a very well-known cine artist who made her debut in the movie Kappal Modalali as a lead actress with Ramesh Pisharari. She is none other than Sarayu Mohan. My hearty welcome to Sarayu Mohan. We also have among us today a very well-known playback singer, composer, dancer, and occasional actor, Sitara Krishnakumar, who is joining us in the midst of a busy schedule. Welcome, Sitara. Now, how can we celebrate Children's Day without children? I would like to welcome our young performers, Aparna Shibu from New York, Ashwika Anil from Atlanta, Rihanna Danish from California, Sarah Peters from New York. Welcome to all 4 of our young performers. We have here with us today Sindhu Pillai, a fellow of American Academy of Pediatrics in Private Practice Solo from California. Warm welcome to you, Sindhu. Now, supporting and encouraging us with our ideas and helping us put together events like this is our executive committee. I would like to welcome our president, Mr. Anian George, secretary, Mr. Unikrishnan, treasurer, Mr. Thomas T. Ullman, vice president, Pradeep Nair, joint secretary, Mr. Jose Manakar, and joint treasurer, Mr. Biju Thonikarvo. A very hearty welcome to all of you. And I would like to give a warm welcome to all the national committee members, RVPs, regional committee members, and audience, and everybody else who is present here today. A very, very hearty welcome to this event. Hope we take back some important message and knowledge from this interactive session and enjoy the presence of our special guests. Please sit back and enjoy. And welcome everybody again. Now, parenting plays a very essential role in protecting their families and holding together a semblance of normalcy for their children. Now, we are actually going through a time of social shifts that has altered the human lives. Parenting in the midst of a pandemic is an interactive session here today. Let's turn our attention to Reena Nen and hear more on this topic from her. Over to you, Reena.
Jasmine, thank you so very much. And I want to thank everybody at FOMAA for what you all are doing in the midst of the pandemic of getting our Malayali community together. I have been so impressed by various Malayali organizations, how everyone has come together in this period when many of us can't really gather. It was interesting watching Onam celebrations. Onam is a big thing in my household, and it's hard. It's really hard right now as we're trying to be very responsible. And I think that's one of the biggest message I hope everyone will take home is the importance as these COVID numbers are increasing, that we find ways, as you guys have, to interact with our community digitally. And I think our Malayali community has done incredible work in the midst of this pandemic of making sure that we stay connected. And can I just say, I had a chance as we were getting ready 30 minutes ago to listen to some of the singers you have, the young singers in our community. Boy, am I impressed with you guys. Your talent is just incredible. And we need the arts, the music, the singing, our culture more now than ever before. So I want to tell you how proud I am. My parents spent so much money on music classes, classical singing, everything. And I don't even have an ounce of talent in that department compared to what you guys naturally have. So I'm so impressed. And Jasmine, thank you very much for that warm welcome. We are coming to you guys, as you all know, in very, very difficult times right now in the middle of the pandemic, as our country is in the middle of a massive transition of government in a situation that we're not really used to. I saw a picture that somebody posted that I think probably this weekend I'll post on my Instagram account of the Obama kids coming to the White House, meeting the Bush children, George W. Bush's kids. And there's a staircase. And apparently, I think there's a staircase in the White House in the residence area that you don't see, that it allows the kids to slide down the stairs. So the Bush girls, who at this point were in college, were showing the Obama girls who were in elementary school this cool feature of the house and how you can slide down this. And I thought, what a beautiful portrait of a change of administration and how they were working together, Democrats and Republicans. And I feel now more than ever, all of us, whether we are Malayalis or not Malayalis, it's so important right now. The number one thing is to make sure that we're wearing masks, that we're figuring out how to stay connected, but socially distant, especially during these holidays. Because, we love nothing more than to get together with our community and our people and to share in the food and the culture, and especially with Christmas. But I hope people will take a special look in these next few weeks about how to rethink that. And I'm very proud of how you guys have rethought that with this. Thank you, first off, so much for having me. A lot of times in this pandemic, so many people have had to find ways to remain resilient, to rethink. And I personally have done that as well, trying to start this media company because I noticed when I was working as a journalist, so many of our young people, the future of journalism in our newsroom in their 20s and early 30s, were really struggling with mental health. And at the beginning of this pandemic, when I would call to talk about stories with them, I check and say, how are you guys doing? What's going on? And I was really surprised. Some of the kids who might have had a roommate or living with their parents were really struggling. These are smart kids because we all find ourselves, no matter how big your family is, how many people you're living with, it can feel so lonely for so many people. And I think especially in our Indian community, we often don't talk about mental health and the implications it can have, depression, what it's like to maybe even live with addiction. Some people might find themselves enjoying a glass of wine here or there and discover it's become a daily thing. So how do you look beyond the things that we as a community don't often talk about? And that's a large part of the reason why I started this media company. We are spending this year focusing a lot on mental health. And that first aspect was parenting, because the way you parented before a pandemic, I think we all are living with our children in a way that we haven't. We go off to work. We had busy lives. They had busy lives. And now you're really forced to think about what really matters. And especially for those of us who are, I know many of us are cut off from our families because they live in different states, and having that access is very hard right now. And so I think it's important that we discuss that. So I started this parenting podcast. You can find it on Google Play, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get podcasts. And it's called Ask Lisa, the Psychology of Parenting. And I teamed up with a friend, a psychologist. She's a remarkable woman named Dr. Lisa Damore, a child psychologist. She's got 2 New York Times bestselling books. She writes about really adolescence and parenting. And we have about 15 episodes. The episodes come out every Tuesday. The next one, it'll be a very good one. I think our Malayali community will like. It's about how do you get into college in the middle of a pandemic. And we have an expert who embedded with 3 different universities over 2 years and stayed with them in the admissions process, trying to get all the tips, all the secrets of what helps people get into admissions, into universities. So he's joining us this Tuesday, and I hope you guys will tune in. And it's remarkable what he said, because for those of our children who are juniors and seniors who would be spending these years, this year, really visiting colleges, trying to figure out, I know I went with my father who took me around to different universities, and it was so important. It was so important to get a feel for the school, to meet the teachers. So in this pandemic, we're all forced to rethink that. And what psychologist Dr. Lisa D'Amour has said over and over again, 2 most important things as parents that we can remember and try to incorporate in our homes is warmth and structure. And that's really what kids need to get us through the next really 12 months, and particularly more so this winter, because it really is a day-by-day thing for all of us, is finding out how to create warmth in your home, whether it's doing activities or things or cooking, or we have movie night on Friday night and we stream a movie and the kids love that. And it's finding warmth and structure. So even if you are learning from home and you're remote and you're not going to school in your classroom, which many of us, if you aren't already, will probably be forced to deal with this winter. I know in our school district here in Connecticut, we have just gotten word that the middle school and the high school will be going remote so far for the school year. They've been going 5 days. So that figuring out a structure, even if they're learning from home, that you stick with. And even on the weekends, as sports and other activities, finding that structure on the weekends is so important. So she keeps, as a psychologist, mentioning this to me of how important that is. And when you talk about development, a lot of us are wondering as parents, so what really matters, right? For those of us who are tiger moms who want to make sure that our kids are enrolled in this and that and studying hard and SATs and this, the gentleman we're having on Tuesday said to me that a lot of these colleges are now saying, okay, you don't have to take the SAT because we know that some of you can't take it. It's optional, but your grades will now matter even more. And so making sure that we are really providing the basic structure for our kids beyond just the academics. And also, as we look into colleges, that every child ends up getting into a university that they should be meant to get into that'll allow them to thrive. It doesn't have to be Harvard. It doesn't have to be Stanford, that you can get a great education, even at a community college. And that's important to also keep in mind. So, as I come to you and another thing that we just launched with my company, Good Trouble Productions, just 2 weeks ago is a show on YouTube. I hope you guys will subscribe. FOMAA says they'll post it on their Facebook page so you can learn more. It's called The Rebound. And it's stories of how people have come out of the absolute worst moments of their lives. The first one was a Black man who was abused by police. It was a case of police brutality. And just a couple of weeks ago, he won the case in Georgia. And it is the largest case in Georgia of this kind. And they found it was a use of force, that he was not meant to be the person targeted. And he talked about what it's like to be known. He played for the NFL. And he said, I'm really embarrassed because people now in the community come up to me and ask for my photograph because they're like, oh, you're the guy who was beat up by police. And he said, that's so shameful, embarrassing. I don't want people to know me as a guy who was beat up by police. So he talks to me about how he is recovering from police brutality. And he is such a man of faith. And I think that is such a big difference with him, that he believes God is using him for a purpose. And his story is remarkable. This week, we spoke to a man who was on death's door, and he was a drug and alcohol addict who needed a liver transplant. And I don't know if you know this, but if you need a liver transplant to even qualify, to even get on the list, you must be sober for 6 months. He couldn't even be sober for an hour. So his story is remarkable. And he talks about the love that his dogs, that animals gave him, was really what saved his life. And he's now started an incredible program in prisons in California, bringing these dogs to these hard criminals who were part of gangs, who murdered people, bringing these dogs, allowing them to connect and have a dog actually love them and get close to them, has transformed the lives of these prisoners. And that's this week's story. And I think that for so many of us, surviving these next few months will be crucial as parents, as a Malayali community. And I think we are so well rooted to the founders, the first Malayalis, uncles and aunties who came, in the 60s and 70s, who laid the groundwork, who understood early on, if we are to make it as a community, it is about reaching out and supporting each other. So I am so grateful that we have FOMAA and these Malayali organizations that have made a transformative difference. So with that, I hope you guys might find it useful, the resources that my media company is putting out, and I hope you'll tune in and subscribe. And I'll turn it over to questions. I'm eager to hear what you guys have to say.
Thank you, Reena. Next is an interactive session with Reena. ആർക്കെങ്കിലും എന്തെങ്കിലും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ചോദിക്കാനുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ചോദിക്കാം, ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ ചാറ്റ് വിൻഡോയിൽ ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ചെയ്താലും മതി. സ്മിത. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Smita from Florida.
Hi, Smita.
Near to you.
Second,
so I live in Palm Coast. So my question is, how do you think this pandemic will shape a child's development? I have a son who's 16, right in the adolescence. He's doing good, fortunately. I'm trying my best to help him cope with his remote learning. And so I just need that advice from you.
Oh, Smita, thank you for that question. And I love my home state, Florida. So thank you very much. I know, I think it's hardest. My kids are 9 and 8, and I think they're at a wonderful age because they want to be with me. They want to hang out. But I often think about the teens, because this is difficult. Teens shouldn't be with their parents 24 hours a day. They should be developing, going out, socializing, learning those skills. And it's really hard. But, I think it goes back to what psychologist Dr. Lisa has said about warmth and structure, that making sure, the New York Times had a column about 2 years ago talking about parenting in potted plants, that, that parents of teenagers should be like, a chetty, like a plant in your house. You should be planted. You should be there, not necessarily interacting all the time. But the teens want to know that you are a presence in their life, that they need something, you're there, you're available, you're accessible. So I think when it comes to development, what we've heard from psychologists and people say is that people will catch up. The kids who miss their freshman year of college, they'll get those skills, they'll be able to catch up. Kids are so resilient. But I think sometimes making sure that they have hope, because the teenage years, your hormones are through the roof, they're all over the place, but making sure that these kids know that we're going to get through this, that is one day at a time. And also having them develop what they enjoy developing. I was not, I have to tell you, very good in math. I was not very good at math, but my parents encouraged the other skills for me, which was public speaking, speech and debate. And now, I think about it, if I was in high school, I wouldn't be able to go necessarily to these speech and debate competitions unless they're online, which some of them I know have moved online. But it's also an added stress because all of us are Zooming all the time, that, the kids are so exhausted these days. But I think now more than ever, I really agree with Dr. Lisa, making sure that there's structure in the home, that there's warmth, and that the children know that this isn't going to last forever. But try to focus in on the things that you can control. We can't control the numbers going up. We can't control our interaction with people, and making sure that they know that this isn't going to last forever.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Smita.
Welcome.
Hi, Reena. Hi, this is Nisha. I don't know if you can see me.
Hi, Nisha. Yes, I can see you. Nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see you. And congratulations on your podcast. Congratulations on being in a community, helping with mental health, because I don't know many people who actually talk about mental health and parenting. I have 3 children and I have a senior, obviously very stressful during this time, and having to make all these decisions about which colleges to go to. I have a middle schooler and I have an elementary school child. So a lot of kids in the house. As parents during this pandemic, how do we understand the stress that the children are taking? Especially, I want to focus on my senior child, especially with the colleges and everything.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I hope, Smita, you'll tune in on Tuesday, because I think that episode is just for you, looking at how to get into a college in the middle of a pandemic. But it's so hard. And I think the needs of an elementary school kid is so different from the needs of a middle school kid and also a high school kid. And for whatever reasons, they've seen in Europe that kids are able in elementary school, they're able to be in in-person school without spreading rapidly. And I can't speak to the medicine behind it. Some have said it's because children carry a lesser viral load. I don't know if that's true. But I can tell you in my own community here in Connecticut, we're seeing almost every week the schools get shut down in middle and high school because of COVID being spread and contact tracing and them discovering people have tested positive. So I think, we have our hopes set up for senior high schoolers. Like you have this one, I know I had this one school. I really wanted to go to George Washington University. My dad thought that was a great school. I wanted to study journalism and politics and it was perfect. And I wonder today, it's so hard today to get into that university. The standards are even more harder than it was then. If I would be able to today with my same SAT score and being a valedictorian, would I still be able to get in? And I think one of the things this college expert said, and he's going to talk about it on Tuesday, is making sure your kids fall in love. If they apply for 10 schools, making sure they appreciate how great all 10 can be instead of saying, okay, this is the only one school I want to get into, knowing, and maybe if it's as parents, we say, okay, this school also has this is great, so that they don't feel upset in March when they might not get into the school of their dreams, that it's not over, and ultimately everybody does go to the right university that's good. And worst case, you can always transfer if you hate a school. So it's never the end of the world. But I think letting them know that there is opportunity beyond what that acceptance letter says or doesn't say. And, this is absolutely unprecedented times. I don't even know, while the college admissions has certain standards, I think that everything is up in the air now. So we've got to acknowledge that it's kind of out of our hands. But knowing that it's not the end, that you can always transfer into another school. And sometimes it's easier to transfer into another school than actually getting admitted freshman year. To your question about the middle schooler, there are so many changes going on in middle school. It is so hard to stay on top of it. But I think sometimes having an outlet and talking to your kids, they might not tell you everything right away, but having open communications with them, finding a way, a quiet time when you can really download them sometimes really, really helps. For my son, I know he's 9, hanging out with him right before he goes to bed. I feel like everything kind of comes out then and he tells me things. And that's been helpful in this pandemic. And especially where I don't have to commute into the city every day. I think for many of us who are working, it's one of the positives where you're with your children more and you're able to see, things that you might not have been able to see.
Thank you for your answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, this is Sunita from Minneapolis.
Sunita.
Hi, Rina. Thank you so much for the session. I think I'm pretty impressed with the way that you said how the warmth and, structure plays an important role, and that's really good. So I know I just wanted to emphasize more on the structure. So when you say structure, these days, most of the things are like online, whether it's socializing, whether it's your school, whether it's a piano lessons, for example, everything is online. So as a parent, how do you balance that kind of screen time with your kids? I have a middle schooler and, most of the socializing also happens online, through the computer or through your phone. You just can't get out right now. And especially in Minneapolis, the numbers are on a high rise and I don't know what else to do, other than having the computer open for your socializing, for your extracurriculars, everything. Yeah. So what kind of, what as parents can we do about balancing that screen time with your kids?
That is a great question. So Dr. Lisa, actually, my son is 9. And he just got into Xbox this year. The boys are really into Xbox. I'm against video games, so I didn't want to get this for him. But she said that the kids that are actually doing the best in this pandemic, remember in the spring when we shut down, we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know anything. She said the kids who did the best were actually the boys between ages like 8 to 16. Because the way they socialized was by all playing from their living room or their bedroom these video games. So they're all interacting, able to talk to each other. They've got the app up and they're communicating. So they were the ones who were able to socialize the same way they socialized before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and currently, right? So I ended up getting my son an Xbox, and sure enough, it's been a motivator. He only gets a little bit of time every day, but it's been a motivator for him doing his chores around the house, doing his homework, and he is able to interact because they go to school 5 days a week, actually. We're very lucky in that sense. But he only can stay with the 20 kids in his class. So he can't interact with any of the other boys. So this is the only time during the day where he can interact with his friends. So I think many of us know we're a lot more lenient with screen time, because now the good thing is there's so many ways to track how long your kids have been on screen time, which I highly recommend. But I think we all have been way more flexible with that, and that's okay. But I think that you have to allow a little bit more flexibility with screen time. But there is a way to monitor it so it doesn't get out of hand.
Thank you.
Ethan, is it pretty cold there in Minnesota? You're in Minnesota, right?
We got 3 inches of snow.
Wow, that's incredible. Incredible.
Thank you, Rina.
Yeah, you bet.
Hi, Rina. This is Jasmine again.
Hi, Jasmine.
Yeah, hi. I have a very quick question. And my question is I know you just spoke about teenagers, adults, a little more older kids. Now, I have a question for you about younger kids. I have my own preschool in London, and I do see parents who are dropping them off because they have to pay attention to their work when they're at home.
Yeah.
But there are times that when they go back home too, the parents are still on their calls or working, because I think this situation, this pandemic and working from home situation has no time limit anymore. Parents are working very early in the morning and they work late too.
Very true. Very true.
What I have seen and what I have understood and what I'm trying to understand is parents are actually trying to balance this of giving attention to their child when they are working. Now, these little kids don't understand as much as the older kids do understand. They just understand to the limit that I need to talk to my mom or my dad right now. I want my mom to see what I have done and I have something to show. But my mom is not free. And, parents have to say, all right, I'll be right back. Just give me a few minutes or give me a few seconds. How do you think, as a parent, the parent can make the child understand without hurting the child, and how does this affect their psychology of growth? What can we do? What can parents do to make them feel better and to give them enough time after?
Yeah, it's so hard. Yesterday, my daughter, we were on the couch and she picked up like a remote control and goes, "This is mommy." Mommy on her phone. She was doing an impression of me, like just saying that I'm so zoned out when I'm listening to a word they're saying because I'm trying to finish everything, and so she was doing an impression of me, and it was spot on that my husband and son just could not stop laughing at it. It is hard. It's so hard because our attention is so divided. And you're right. You make such a good point right now that even though we're working from home, and that's nice for some instances, we're working 7 days a week. I woke up this morning right before I came to you, sending emails, getting things out. And these little things every day add up because it's on your mind. You're thinking, last night I should have done these emails. I didn't do them. So now I have to do them now. So, it's harder because we don't get a break. There's always something every day for us to do, right? But I think maybe finding a time where you can really unplug from your devices, your phone. And for me, I put it in a drawer and I try to be there when the kids come home from school or when their schoolwork is done. I put it in a drawer and then I try to be around. But it's not easy to do. It might last maybe 10 minutes sometimes because I know I need to do the other things. But I think being conscious that your kids need that time and that they really want your attention, and making sure that you are free, whether it's folding laundry or cooking or whatever, that you find that time in the day where you can really connect. Because even though we're home all the time, it's like sometimes the quality time has diminished. I think when I was working and taking the train into the city every day, when I come home, the good news was I was completely done with my work for the most part. So that 1 hour I was with my kids, I was fully with my kids, able to do this, find this, But now I'm there with them all day. I'm having every meal with them. We're talking about, I'm taking them to the library. I'm doing this and doing that. But also I'm so divided that while I'm taking them to the library, I'm shooting out some text to people. I'm looking at our video for our next show to see what we need to change. And so all of us are just taxed in so many ways that I think we have to be conscious about finding that time that's uninterrupted. And it doesn't have to be a long time in the day, but finding that time because it's really a good chance to connect.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's so true that the time that we give them, they have to know that there is a time that we are going to give them and connect with them.
Yeah.
That's great. Yes, true. Thank you so much, Reena.
Thank you. It was a great question.
ഇനി ആർക്കെങ്കിലും എന്തെങ്കിലും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ചോദിക്കാനുണ്ടോ? ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ സെഷൻ വൈൻഡപ്പ് ചെയ്യാണ്. വേറൊരു ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഒന്നും ചാറ്റ് വിൻഡോയിലും കണ്ടില്ല. So thank you, Reena, for such a wonderful session. It's such a vast topic, and I think it's very difficult to cover in such a short time. So we should have one more session in the coming weeks.
Pleasure. And thank you guys for all that you're doing. I really appreciate our FOMAA and our Malayali community for helping, because it makes all the difference.
We are honored to have you here. Thank you once again.
Thank you.